Hello! A few months ago I uploaded a Q&A where I very briefly went over my experience I've had these last couple of years with being in a period of intentional singleness, of celibacy, if you will. And I had a few questions about it at the time. I've had more questions about it very recently, and so I wanted to sit down and film a video about my thoughts, my experiences with it. Is it worth it? Has it been helpful to me? Do I even think the modern dating scene is worth getting back into at all? Would I recommend it for other people? Do I think you should go dump your crusty boyfriend right now? Let's talk about it. When I got out of my last relationship almost 3 years ago, I knew from the beginning that I did not want to jump straight into another one. Whatever opportunities may have presented to me, I was determined that I was just gonna be on my own for a while. I had spent almost my entire adult life in a relationship, and I realized that I didn't really know who I was as a single adult. I didn't know who I was independent from a romantic relationship. I didn't have any specific time frame in mind. There was no thought process of like, well, when 3 months pass, when a year passes, when 2 years pass, maybe then I'll get into a relationship. The plan was really to just let myself feel everything out, to learn whatever I needed to, whenever I needed to learn it, and to let myself heal on my own time, however long that time frame may be. It wasn't until maybe a year into this that I began to find other communities online where other people were doing the same thing, and I realized that this was actually a really common practice and has kind of, maybe even become a trend recently. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that a lot more people have become aware of it as a practice recently and begun to implement it into their own lives. And so shortly after beginning that process myself, I found other communities of people who were doing the same thing, and I became even more intentional about the way I used my time while I'm single, about the ways I wanted to develop myself and the things I wanted to experience. I've never been into hookup culture, so for me, it wasn't so much about giving up sex, so more is about creating the intention to reject whatever opportunity may arise for a romantic relationship, if the opportunity arose, in favor of dedicating that time to myself and to my own development. I could make a whole video about my feelings about hookup culture, and I might, if anyone is foolish enough to enable me, but neither here nor there. Dodging the hose. Sorry, my mom doesn't like it when I talk like that. Rejecting potential suitors. It allows you to explore who you are as an individual in solitude. It can be really easy to tie down part of your identity to a romantic partner or to your own value as a romantic partner, your perceived value as a partner. When you take the time to carve yourself out of that mold and really look at yourself for who you are, independent of these external influences, you start to see parts of yourself that you weren't fully aware of until then. You start to see places that you're lacking in, that you would like to develop more, and you have the opportunity and the time to do that. A really good use of this time is to ask yourself questions like, what are your goals? Independent from anyone else? What are your values? Independent from anyone else? What are your interests and your beliefs when there's nobody else around to kind of sway how you feel about those things? I want to give a big thank you to Parade for sponsoring this video, and they gave me a really good coupon code for you guys. You guys know I'm a self-proclaimed nature girly. I'm here for the animals, I'm here for the environment. If you've ever dipped your toes into the sustainable clothing pool, you know that it can get expensive. There are some clowns out there trying to charge $30 for like a single organic cotton thong, which is why I'm excited to be partnering with Parade. They offer sustainable intimates at an affordable price point. My absolute favorite item from Parade recently has been the Lush Sculpt Plunge Longline Bralette in the colorway Glacier. The fabric of the bralette is their lush rib fabric, and it is a dream. So smooth, so soft. When I took it out of the packaging for the first time, I just stood there and like rubbed it between my hands for a little bit. If you're picky about the texture of the fabric you put on your body, this one is for you. I've also been wearing the Vintage Rib Second Skin High Rise Brief, also in Glacier, also in the Lush Rib fabric. Again, so soft. I live in these around the house. If you're interested in buying some of these pieces for yourself, I have a discount code for 40% off site-wide. You can use my code LE40 for 40% off your entire order. No minimum purchase required. These styles can sell out fast, so be sure to use the link in my description and my code for 40% off your order at checkout. Thank you, Parade. People often talk about decentering men in these conversations. If you're someone who dates men specifically, you might have heard this mentioned already. If you haven't been introduced to the concept, allow me to explain it to you. We live in a culture where, especially as women, it's really easy to build your identity around your perceived value as a partner to a man, as a girlfriend, as a wife. Are you pretty enough? Are you sexy enough? Do you bring enough to the table? And for a lot of women, this becomes the focal point of their life. I'm sure you've had friends maybe who are fantastic when they're single and so much fun to be around, but as soon as she's got a man, girl, she is out of your life for good. She evaporated into the ether. You don't hear from her. You don't see her anymore until she dumps him or he dumps her. Or maybe you've been that person, or maybe you are that person. It's okay. We can fix you. Decentering men is about confronting those tendencies in yourself and unlearning them. Learning to prioritize yourself again, your friends, your family, your relationship with your work, your education, your hobbies, all of these things that may have been pushed to the wayside in this quest for a boyfriend. For me specifically, when I started doing this, I didn't just remove myself from romantic relationships, although that was the primary goal of all this. I really removed myself from other people in general to an extent. I was well and truly in my solitude, learning to enjoy my own company again, learning who I was, independent from anyone else, from any outside pressure. All of the things that I used to do with a partner, I started doing on my own, and it was fun, and I had a great time, and I remembered that I actually like myself a lot, and I think I'm pretty cool. The very early stages of celibacy for me were really just about asking myself, what do I want? What kind of places do I want to go to? What kind of food do I want to eat? How do I want to dress? What hobbies do I want? What kind of friends do I want to make? And then doing it. Doing all of those things. Just being the person that I most wanted to be and most felt comfortable being. Asking myself every day, who do I dream of becoming? What's the ideal version of me? And how can I be more like her today? Being in solitude and separating myself from all external validation really allowed me to examine the relationship I have with my own desire for external validation. It let me learn how to source it from myself rather than from anyone else's opinion of me. When you starve yourself of validation from others, from a partner, it allows you to learn how to source your validation from within yourself. So if the way I want to dress is a little bit different, if the things I believe are a little bit different, if the way I live my life is a little bit different, I don't stop for a second to ask myself, well, what are other people going to think of me? Like, is it cringe? Is it embarrassing? It doesn't matter, because what I've done is ask myself, do I feel good about this? Do I trust my own judgment about this? And if that answer comes back as a positive, that's going to be the end of it. The fear of being cringe is making you a loser, and it's making you ugly, and it's making you boring. Release yourself from the constraints of cringe. I'm embarrassing, but I'm free. And isn't that just the cost of living? Isn't that just the price of admission to happiness? When you learn to source your validation from yourself, it allows you to operate free from desperation, free from anxiety. You don't need that man to like you. You don't need that man to pick you. You don't feel pressured to lower your standards, to sacrifice your values, or to stay in a relationship where you are not being fulfilled, because you know that any moment you can leave and still be validated without him. You cut yourself off from the source and you learn to stop craving it. A byproduct of sourcing your validation from yourself is that it will raise your self-confidence. I look around myself now and I ask myself, who is deserving of my time, my body, my affection, my devotion? Nobody that I've seen yet. I value myself too much now to give anyone access to those things before they've proven that they're worthy of it. Who is deserving of my body? Who is deserving of my most vulnerable thoughts and feelings? Any man who comes looking for them? Any man who I am attracted to? Any man who I get along with well? I don't think so. My standards for a partner have been raised. And with all this time that I've had to myself, I've had a lot of time to think about what my standards for a partner should be. Because I've taken the time to understand myself, I understand what I would need from a partner. Not just to enjoy them, but for my life to be made better by them, and for me to do the same for them. If I get back into the dating world, I'm more confident in my ability to pick a partner who I'm actually suited to, and who does right by me. One of the things I've used this time to commit myself to is friendship. Learning how to foster deep and meaningful and fulfilling relationships with others that are not based on romance. Making friends as an adult is hard. If you've been around this channel before, maybe you've heard about my struggles with it. It's intimidating to get to know people like that, especially if you're anything like me and have been a borderline recluse for half of your life. If you've got that loner tendency in you, it's a challenge learning to balance that with the very human need for connection and community. And that's something that's taken up a lot of my brain power recently. I'm better able to do that as a single person. I have more of myself to devote to my friends. I really don't think I'll even consider getting into another relationship until I feel like I've built a really solid and meaningful and sweet connection with other people platonically. Female friendships especially are something that I have struggled to build in my own life. The last thing I want to do is end up using a romantic partner to sort of fill that empty space in my life, which is really easy to do. Again, thinking about those girls who you never hear from again as soon as they get a boyfriend. I'm not gonna be that bitch, okay? Any man who comes into my life is gonna have to compete with the love and devotion that I get from the women who surround me. A partner can't be everything to you. If you don't have that safety net of friendship in your life, you will feel that hole for as long as it exists. No matter how much you love your partner, no matter how great they are to you. I think it's a foundation that is best built before committing yourself to someone romantically. The last time I talked about this, I got a question from someone who asked me if I think you have to be single in order to find yourself and be at peace with yourself. Listen, I'm not gonna tell you if you're in just the most amazing relationship right now and you really think you've got the one and you've got something really great going on, I'm not gonna tell you that you need to go dump that man. Some of you should, to be clear, but not necessarily all of you. I think being single is maybe the best time to get a lot of this work done, but that doesn't mean that it's your only option. If you really have a wonderful relationship and you trust your partner, maybe you could consider asking them if you could each just kind of take a step back from each other for a little bit. Not as a breakup or even like a separation, but just taking more time to yourselves, to be in solitude, to be with your friends, to make new friends if you think that's something you need to do. Maybe you find that you're able to do this work really well with the partner. Maybe they're even, you know, a helpful resource for you to lean back on through all of it. It's not being celibate that's going to fix you. Singleness alone cannot save you. What matters is what you do with the time that you have. What matters is how intentional you are with using that time for your own development. I have used this time to explore my interests, to read and educate myself, to journal, to make friends, to strengthen old friendships that I already had, addressing the way I take care of my body, the way I present myself, pouring back into myself in every way that I'm able to. So when I do enter back into the dating space, if I do, God help me, it'll be with better standards and with a more clear vision of what I actually need from a relationship to be fulfilled by it. And with a better ability to be a good partner myself, I'll be more in tune with my needs. I'll have friendships that I can fall back on if things don't work out. And I'll have the confidence and the knowledge to walk away from a situation that isn't benefiting me. To be honest, part of the reason I am in no rush to start dating again is just because I hate it. Going on a date for the first time is like a job interview. I heard someone describe it one time as a 2-hour court jester performance. I would concur. It's like people who are serial daters look me in my eyes and tell me you're actually having a good time with it. And then get down on your knees so I can slap you across the face for lying to me. And that's not even to mention just the state of the dating scene as it exists today. It's like everyone you see is in a hoe phase, which no shade to hoes, no shade to the hoes at all. But I'm not one of them. I don't personally identify as such. I'm not trying to get laid, and I'm not gonna entertain anyone who I even suspect is trying to get that out of me. I'm not gonna be a hookup. I'm not gonna be in a casual relationship. I'm never gonna be in a situationship, God forbid. Like, I could sit here and rant for another 20 minutes about all the different things that I think have made modern dating such a shit show. Hookup culture and the porn industry and the manosphere and all of its content. But I will spare you all, and I'll just say that I think a really big portion of the adult population is not emotionally equipped to have a truly healthy relationship, and digging through the haystack trying to find that one shiny needle who has done the work, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's not a fun process. Sometimes I think that I'll just never enter the dating scene again, and I will just wait for life to hand me some beautiful special person on a beautiful shiny silver platter and say, here you go, Ellie, I found this one just for you. Is it a little bit delusional for me to be thinking that way? Maybe, but you know what, that's the name of the game I'm trying to play. Thank you for listening to me while I ramble about this. If you've got any other questions you'd like me to address, feel free to drop them in the comments or to DM me with any concerns you might have. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.